Hey friends, how are you? It's Chantelle here from Studio Evolution. And running a studio can be a lonely business sometimes. And it's not always easy for you to have someone to be able to just to kind of ask the questions and get the answers you need to make the big decisions in your business. Well, that's what we're here to change. So if you want to leave me a voicemail, you can give me a call and leave me a voicemail, and I can answer your questions about how to make running your studio a lot easier and a lot more joyful. And today I've got a fantastic question from Selena, which is all about the idea of really scaling up their business and how to market in that way. So let's have a little listen right now.
Hi, Chantelle. It's Selena. I'm wondering how you would market to schools and daycare centers and preschools and public and private elementary schools. How does that look different than marketing to individuals? I'd like to take my program in to these centers and possibly use their facilities instead. Also, how will automation like that be set up on the back end?
Whoa, my friend. You are in scaling mode. You are like, let's grow this baby. I'm ready to go. And I'm all here for all of that. This is so exciting. Many of my clients use this satellite strategy of expanding their studios. And if you've got a really great program, it makes sense then to kind of start to leverage the exposure in your area. It works so well, particularly if you have a hub location. And what I found is that, so we have this hub studio, and if you're kind of getting to capacity in your studio location, but you don't necessarily want to move, which is a good thing, that can be great. You can just really maximize where you are. What we can start to do is develop these kind of satellite locations, and they can kind of become their own entities, but also what they can do is become like feeders into the hub. So you kind of have the early childhood kind of programs out there. It doesn't have to be necessarily, but then for the more advanced classes, they all kind of feed in. So you're kind of really beginning to dominate within an area. And what this does is that it just helps the retention and the capacity to become very, very strong in your business. So I'm all here for this. I've had a few clients now have 1,000 to 2,000 students because of this model. It is such a low risk model as well, because you're not paying for, you can move very easily if things kind of change. You're not paying for mass overhead. You're only kind of going in. It's really a fantastic approach. So how to get into there? Look, I'm going to be really honest. The main challenge that my clients have faced when moving into this model of moving into daycares and schools and other kind of providers is the old gatekeeper. I don't know about your area, but many of my clients come up against the old secretary who is, doing their job very well and trying to protect the time of their staff. But they just see a little kind of, oh, can we come in and just have 10 minutes of time with your director and we can kind of share what we're about? And they're met with a no, like a big old fat no. And it's like, but it's really good and we're going to help and it's going to be wonderful. So we have to get around the gatekeeper. Now, there's a few ways to do this. I'm just going to share my favorite one. And this is the idea of woo. It's the idea of wooing them with the old lumpy mail. So I can remember a client who ran tennis classes, and he wanted to kind of be able to bring his after school tennis program to more schools. And he was just being met with like flat nose, left, right, and center. And it's very frustrating actually after a while. And his program was so fantastic that they had some funding to be able to give every child that enrolled their own tennis racket free, inclusive within the program, which is just bloody amazing. And so what we did was we decided to wrap up a tennis racket in gift wrapping and actually send it to the principal. And that's what got us the phone call. And so it's actually about being creative here. We have to remember that there's a lot of people who see those kinds of businesses as like, oh, that's my market, I want to get in. And if we want to kind of step above the crowd, we've got to be a little bit creative. So here we're looking at what could you do to demonstrate the joy or the experience or the commitment that you can make. And much of this is relationship building. It might be, kind of timing dependent. So for example, if you run a music program, and I've got a lot of clients who go into daycares and run kind of music programs and dance programs, you might decide maybe it's coming up to Christmas. We'd love to kind of come in and put on a 45-minute, maybe it's 30-minute, these little kids after all, a 30-minute Christmas experience, a Christmas class, a dance class, a music class. Maybe it's kind of another time of year. Maybe it's a summer thing. Maybe it's a seasonal thing. It doesn't have to be kind of, holidays related. You could be putting on a winter wonderland experience. You're probably more creative than I am, my friend. So like whatever kind of speaks to you. But the idea is sometimes you have to get in order to start to build the relationship. Now, I'm going to kind of go high level here and just also play devil's advocate for something I have, because I've had a lot of clients do this work. We're also kind of curious to see how you set this up. One of the big questions I would have for you, Selena, at this stage is how you're going to charge for it in this new stage. So there's two kind of ways you can go about this. The first way is you can go and say, I'm going to charge a per head rate. So for every child that attends my classes over the 10-week session, let's just kind of put it that way, I'm going to charge $100. I'm just using flat numbers, right? So I'm going to charge $100. The other second way is to charge just for the class. So I'm going to charge, it's going to be $150 per session that the teacher delivers. So it's whether it's a flat rate or a per child head rate. And there's pros and cons to each. If you're doing the child head rate, that means like if there's only 8 kids who participate who are sick that day, you then kind of got to work on makeups or whether your policy is going to include that or if it's not going to include that. If they're registered for the time and they're absent that day, then that's just how the cookie crumbles. Or whether you want it to run, I'm going to kind of charge for the session. If there's 10 kids there, if there's 20 kids there, it's going to be a flat rate. So that's one thing to be considering as you go on, and just really being very, very clear. The other thing that I like to kind of flag at this point is, again, the idea of relationship. So when you're working in a daycare facility or a school, you might be running an after school choir, something like that. Depends on the relationship, but often they're still kind of that school or daycare or educational institution, like they're their student and you're just kind of the pop-in provider. And if your brain works like mine in terms of business, I'm always thinking about long-term retention. How can I get them engaging in more of my programs? How can I kind of, connect with them more and deliver more of the arts that I'm passionate about? So the idea here is considering how can I get even more relationship with the families? Because if particularly in a daycare environment, you're going in to teach the class, you never meet the parents because they're somewhere else. And you sometimes don't even get the direct contact details of the families. So you don't get access to the email database because the daycare is positioning you as like just the provider. So they manage all the logistics. So we're kind of seeking ways that ethically we're able to connect and communicate and give feedback with the families. So this is where, again, we're seeking to build our database, right? So we're looking at when a student is going to the daycare, how can I maybe send something where the family can reach out and I can get their email address and I can start to market to them later on. If we're looking at in this business model, when they go to the locations like a daycare, and I might have 15 satellite locations of daycare centers and different schools providing these classes, and there's a lot of kids. And so I'm curious about how I can build my business's database to be able to allow me to market more to them. So important that we're considering that. And you can do that through competitions, little coloring competitions or little freebies or giveaways or resources. There's different ways of playing that, but that's something I want you to consider here. The purposes of this business model is not just to be expanding your services into different locations. We're also seeking to really build your database so that we've got more people we can connect with over time and then invite them as they grow into your other programs. But if they're just going to the daycare and you haven't got access to their details, you can't do that. So hope that kind of gives you a bit to think about. The other question you had was how to automate the marketing side of this. And truth be told, Selena, I doubt this is something that we could really do a ad strategy around. I don't think it would be worth it because the targeting would be quite small. So I probably wouldn't be engaging that we go down that way. Here's a few different ways you can do it. You could pay an assistant virtual assistant, someone else, like to do a data kind of collection activity. So like some data, what's it called? Data entry. So they can go through Google and you could actually pay someone a couple $100. I want you to collect the names and email addresses, phone numbers, addresses, you name it, of every single preschool, every single daycare, every single early childhood institution, every single school within a 40-kilometer radius. I want all of the details. So you get someone to kind of do that for you. And now we have this kind of database. And what we'd be doing here is kind of looking at, you know, on a semi-frequent basis, 4 times a year, maybe more, we might be looking at doing a direct kind of mail approach, like a lumpy mail where we're going to woo them with something that's interesting. We might be kind of looking at that way. We might be having just a regular kind of phone call roster system where I'm going to call these just every kind of couple of weeks or a couple of months. I'm going to just give them a call and say, hi, it's Chantelle here. I wanted to let you know that we've developed a new springtime workshop. This is what it's about. We'd love to come and offer it in your center. We have an introductory rate where if you like to, for your first experience having one of these workshops, come in, we'll offer it to you at this rate. Ongoing, it will be this. We also offer ongoing services we'd love to connect with you on. So it just allows you, it's kind of like, again, we need something to talk about. So it might be interesting for you to kind of have creative innovation in thinking how you're going to come to them. So in terms of marketing automation set up for targeting these, it's pretty much database management. You could definitely write a series of, I don't know, 10 emails that are beautiful and rich and engaging and have them sent out on a frequent basis with an autoresponder. So when you get a new kind of school education institution kind of come on board, they can step into the autoresponder. That's easy to do. But I do have a feeling like with the gatekeepers, you're going to have to be more creative. That's just from my experience. It's exciting, huh? What a great topic. And imagine the potential growth of your studio when you do step into this. I've guided many of our clients through this exact same process, and they've moved to 3 to 6 to 10 locations outside of their studio. And it's very, very fun. And I hope that really gives you a bit of insight, Selena. If you have a question that I could help you with, don't hesitate to sing out. All you got to do is leave me a voicemail and I will create a beautiful response to help give you some ideas and guidance on what to do to transform your business. Thanks for listening, everyone, and I'll see you next time.